Have you ever had an experience that suddenly brings up a memory from your past? Could be as far back as your childhood, or maybe as recently as yesterday. Whatever the case, it's an experience that connects your present to your past for a reason. Welcome to Get Morphed. I'm George. Joining me today is my friend Linda, who is going to share how she had an experience that God has used, connecting her past to a situation in her present so that she could see what He wanted her to see. So, Linda, tell us about that experience and how the Lord has used it.
Yes. Well, it's interesting because when you were speaking, and you were saying, connect my past to my present. And I thought to myself, but He's also connecting me in some way to my future. I don't mean He's predicting my future or anything like that, but He's allowing me to set the stage, to use that memory to make sure that I go forward into my future in His way, for Him. And just a miracle, the realization for me for that, it was a very simple, 2-minute experience. And it was 55 years ago. And here I am.
55 years later, that experience, some experience, you haven't gotten to it yet, but something that happened in the present connected you to that experience 55 years ago.
Exactly.
Okay.
Of course, I didn't realize it right away because God lets you know things when He's ready for it, but when He's ready for you to know it. But I was in a situation where I was in a new place with new people, and a situation arose where all of a sudden, maybe I should be a little bit more specific. I was in a nursing home, and the people that are there, a lot of them they suffer from various forms of dementia, cognitive issues, and sometimes things get blurred because of that. And this was that occasion where somebody was really just kind of falling apart right in front of you. And because I did not know them, I went, okay, it's none of your business. Just stay out of it. You don't know what you're doing. Stay out of it. But my instinct was to help. This
So,
person.
so that other person was pushing you away to tell you, this is none of your business?
I was pushing me away in my head.
Oh, okay.
She's sobbing and crying, and I want to go. And the other part of me, the intellectual part of me says, this has nothing to do with you.
Okay.
You don't know what's going on. Stay out of it. You're going to make it worse. So the intellect is saying, but the emotional part of me is saying, I want to help you. So I did. I did go over and help. I tried to help her. I sat down next to her and, just touched her hand. And I said, you know what? She likes to crayon. So I said, I have some crayon stuff. So I went upstairs and got my tablet, and I was showing her how to crayon. I was trying to distract her. Okay? And I did. But at the same time, that kind of distraction is momentarily. It doesn't last. So the situation then continued to dissolve. And finally, they had to call in some more personnel and so on. But later that night, I was laying in bed, and I suddenly remembered my memory. And I thought, what are you remembering this for? It has nothing to do with anything. And then, because I let God into my life, I thought to myself, you're thinking about this for a reason. What? Why? Why are you thinking about this? And I remember the incident and how I reacted to something that I was interacting with a person that I'd never seen, never met, never saw again. But I was reacting in a bad way. I was reacting to a situation because the other person was not in a good place. Now, she didn't say, gee, I'm really in a bad place. No. A little bit of backstory, okay? I'm in my 20s, I'm 27, 28. I'm sitting on a boat that my husband and I own, and I'm looking at a girl sitting on a pier with her feet dangling, and she's overweight, she's not very attractive, and she's staring at me. I'm sitting in this boat, waiting for my husband to show up. And I'm sitting there, she's staring at me, I'm staring back at her. But I'm staring back at her, and my attitude in my mind, I can see it. My attitude was, don't you wish you were me? You know, with that little kind of smirk. And I thought to myself, is God telling, are you remembering this because that's what you just did? Because you're what, you know better, you know how to handle this? Don't you wish you were me, in control of the situation, instead of the confused mess that you are? To me, God was saying, whoa, look at where you're coming from. Look where your head, my head is. And why? He's reminding me not to feel the way I felt with that girl. Do you know, to this day, I feel guilty about that. I have guilt about those moments, and I should. But you can forget about that, especially over a span of time. And he was reminding me that she, along with me, was his creation. And he loves her as much as he loved me. I didn't know that then. And actually, I didn't know that until just last year. That thought. But there were many, miracles a big word, but the jaw-dropping sense of, oh my God, look what he's letting me see. I would have never thought of that a year ago. But because I asked Jesus to be in my life, and he came into my life, and into my heart, and my soul, and my spiritual, I could make that connection. Now, I know miracle's a big word, but to me, it's one of those little holy moments. It's a holy moment that I'm so glad that I can recognize it, because I can keep that. I can keep that holy moment, because it makes me feel good to know that now I have more of an ability to recognize that in other people, myself. That is a gift that is immeasurable. It puts you in touch with your own humanity, but such a different level than don't you wish you were me.
Now, it's really a great point that you're making about how you are now seeing. Because one of those things that when we're born again, we acquire the ability to start to see and to hear. Just as Jesus did in the natural when he was on earth, restoring people's sight, giving sight to the blind and hearing to the deaf, and the ability for lame people to walk. All those things that should be operating in a normal life in the physical, he allows, or rather recreates, when we're born again. Now we have these capacities that we didn't have before.
And can you imagine
how
those people felt?
Yeah.
And the people around them.
Someone living in blindness all their life, and suddenly they see.
Yeah.
So it's traumatic in a good way, right?
Yes.
It's a shock to suddenly. It's like coming out of the womb.
Yes.
You know, it's the same parallel, and that's why Jesus used that metaphor. Because the experience of connecting with the Lord and having this new life is traumatic. And you are now, with your story, illustrating how you are now seeing, which in the biblical, if you get into the word as it's used, to see, the word also means to understand. So what you're saying, and what we all use that word to see, is not just do I see with my eyes, but do I understand? Do I have the eyes of my understanding are in play now, which weren't before.
No. And you know, the other, to me, interesting thing is that 25 or 50 years ago, whatever, this was then. And here I am now. And because time for God is infinite, there's no 55-year time span. Here and here. He makes them come together all at the same time, in the same moment. And that's why when I was thinking about it, I said, yes, my past is helping me in my present, but it's helping me. That's where I got the future from. It's helping me in my future because he can do that. He can do this time-lapse type thing so that in normal terms, you couldn't make that connection. Only God can make that connection for you. With you.
Well, let me maybe correct that or adjust that a little bit, because all the time people in the world without Christ, they're sitting in wherever they might be.
Oh.
And they do suddenly remember something. The difference is, I think, a couple of things. One, they don't have God, the Holy Spirit, who is our counselor, to talk to. So these folks, you know, sadly, might be reliving trauma, and they don't have anyone to help them process it, unless they have money to go spend on counselors, psychologists, and psychiatrists.
You could be living a nightmare. It just keeps reoccurring.
Yes. So it's not just a Christian experience to connect with our past.
No. Oh, I see your point. Oh, yes.
But
Yes,
what
yes.
makes the difference for us is that we have God doing the work of helping us to understand what was that there for.
He's doing the heavy lifting.
Why did it happen? He can explain it to us then in a way that makes sense to where we are today, how it all fits into his plan, which the world doesn't have.
No.
The world doesn't have
But
that.
isn't that our responsibility then? To try to make as many people. I don't want to run out and rent a hall or a tent, and, but to...
Well, I think maybe one of the things that we can step out of our house knowing is that God is present and he's working in the world in ways that we can't always comprehend, but he's working.
Thousands of little ways that we don't know about.
So my approach now hasn't always been this way, because I wasn't always thinking evangelistically, but since I've had my job driving the bus to transport folks, the paratransit bus that I drive, since I started doing that job, I've come to think more and more, God, what have you already done in these people's lives that I can help to water?
Yes.
Like the seeds. What seeds does this person already have that I can just water and perhaps add to encourage whatever connection God may want to make? Because if I may, this, I think, illustrates what God has done in Linda's life and in so many of our lives, where we have this experience, let's say here, and because we live linearly, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. What ends up happening is here we are days or years later. And because God does not live, because he lives outside of time, he is able then to time lapse or compress the time, make the time disappear in a way that connects our present with the past. And so that time just, it's not the amount of time difference between an event and the present doesn't matter. As you said, some people say time heals all wounds. That's a nice sentiment, but it's not real.
It's not really
real.
doable.
And all right. Well,
yeah, well, I think we set up the next.
I did. I do think we're already thinking of things that we can come back and make other episodes.
What what I would like?
What?
I would like. I don't know who's going to hear this, but I would like to get how other people see this.
She's bringing up a good point, and that is how many of you would please leave a comment, hit the like button, and perhaps subscribe. This is Get Morphed, and I haven't actually said too much about how God uses our life experience to morph us.
There you go.
And morphing is simply the shortened version of metamorphosis, which is the word used in the verse, the ministry verse that I have built this channel around, which says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, and then you will be able to test and know what God's good, perfect, and pleasing will is for your life." And so I want to thank you for sharing and just telling us how God has been working in your life. And I look forward to having you share more. And
Thank you.
This is the first episode of Conversations with Linda. So we hope that you will come back and join us, as we will be making more content in which we will have more conversations, not just about our life experiences, but we also want to do some commentary on things that we are seeing on YouTube. There are some other content creators who are doing some interesting work, some Christian and some not, but there is value in what they are sharing, but we would like to add our commentary to it and perhaps correction where needed. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. And we'll hopefully see you again at the next episode of Conversations with Linda. Bye.